Good evening. This is Carl and Sean, and we have a special guest today. So one of our dad bods had to work late tonight, but Patrick Tromley has joined us tonight, and he's a mindset coach. Kind of a cool concept. Some people call it life coach, but I like the word mindset. What do you think, Sean? You like that too?
I think mindset is great. It's a little bit different than what some other people are using. So being unique is always good, I think. What do you think about that, Patrick? The uniqueness of it.
I think it is very unique because it is a different approach that I take than most life coaches, let's say. So I focus on really building up that mental strength and that correct point of view and really just trying to become the best version possible. And when you do that, that's going to spill into all areas of your life. So there's the similarity there in life coach, but it all starts with mindset.
Well, let's get to know you a little bit. I just have a couple quick introduction questions, kind of get to hear your background story and then how you got into this whole fitness and mental mindset coaching. So tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, where you're at now, and then kind of how you matriculated. Some of your story is actually pretty familiar because I was in the mortgage business myself. So go ahead and just I'll let you go, and then we'll ask you questions throughout. Okay.
Sure. So I was born and raised in San Diego, California. Moved out to Queen Creek, Arizona in October of 2019. So we've been here about 3.5 years now. In terms of my career, I started in the mortgage industry when I was 14. My mom was in the industry. So I started on the back end in shipping, insuring, packaging files up, putting them in boxes and moving the boxes along. Fast forward to college, I worked all through high school and college on the night crew, doing that same kind of thing, different operations positions. Then when I graduated college in 2006, I went full time into being a wholesale account executive. So I was the bank rep working with brokers, bringing loans into the bank so that we could help borrowers either buy or refinance. And then, as you know, in 2008, stuff kind of hit the fan there. Mortgage meltdown happened. I had been married, well, not quite married yet. So I'd been with my girlfriend at the time for a while, and I was at Washington Mutual. Washington Mutual got shut down. Had to quickly
Wow.
scramble to find a new bank to go work for. Found Home Savings of America, and both Alina, my wife now, and I ended up going to work there. And then about 18 months after working there, we got married and had our first son. And the feds, the FDIC, came in knocking on the door, kicked the doors in essentially, and told everybody to back away from your desks, hands up, don't touch anything. Ended up shutting that company down as well. And at that point, I had kind of become not overwhelmed, but I'd had enough. That's a better way to say it. I'd had enough of being at the will of somebody else. So I really wanted to take control of my career, my life, for my family. So I went into the investing side. So I'd done a couple flips prior to that. So I had some experience, but then went in full time. Didn't really know what I was getting into because that's a vastly different side of the business than being a lender. So I hired a mentor who is a good friend now and still a mentor, and he showed me the ropes, really educated me on how to best become a real estate investor, all the different exit strategies available. And then through there, I really found the self development path and kind of went all in on that just to try and be the best investor I could be initially. So my whole goal being a lender and being an investor was to make as much money as possible, right? Not necessarily the best motive, but having grown up in the mortgage industry, that was a very doable thing to make a lot of money pretty quickly, pretty easily. And going down that personal development route, I hired another mentor to really help me get better at being me, being a better individual. And he shifted
Let
my
me.
focus from, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, and because I went through a similar experience when it collapsed in 2008, it was very stressful on the marriage. I mean,
Yeah,
income just dropped precipitously from where it was before.
it was
I mean,
it
you
was
remember the
huge.
old days where you could just walk in the office and make money. And then the whole bottom fell out of the whole market. And on top of it, the fear of did I run some loans that I'm going to get in trouble for now, even
Right.
though you
Are they
probably,
going to come after me?
yeah, when's are the cops going to show up at my house,
Yeah.
And and I know the stress was tough on my ex. I mean, tell me how you navigated that with your wife.
Well, funny story is my wife was one of my first broker's daughters. And I joke and say that that was the best deal I ever closed was marrying my wife because he was a sharp kind of broker, a real balls to the wall, hard ass kind of guy that you mess around, you didn't get a second chance kind of guy. And so it was a weird deal for me to go after, let's say. And my boss at the time was good friends with him, and he warned me like I wouldn't do that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, let's just see. Um, but after that, after home savings shut down, I made that year, I think $35,000. So I went from being on top of the world my first 2.5 or 3 years out of college, making six figures, thinking I was the shit and I'm the man kind of situation, and then had my legs taken out from underneath me and made 35,000. I was completely relying on my wife or my girlfriend at the time to support me financially. And so that was a big gut punch. You go from thinking you are the man to you're not a man because you can't support yourself, let alone your lady. So it,
Right.
it was a very humbling experience there for me. And that was one of the main factors. Like I said, I wanted to take control because when you work for somebody else, you really are at the whim of what they want to do. So that was a big force of pushing me into going into the investing side, was to take control to make money so that I could, you know, retake my throne, I guess, as the king of the relationship and be the leader and be the man of the relationship and provide for my lady. So it
Hmm.
was, yeah, it was stressful. I mean, to say the least, and it was very disheartening. I felt like I was failing, and financially I was. So it,
Well,
it
I
was
think I think I think there's going to be some others that are going to feel that pretty soon when we go through this recession that's coming up this year.
it it sounds
Y-
like it. I still have my mom's still in the business. There's companies that are closing. They're
mhm.
not. It's very reminiscent of 2008. I don't think
How,
it's
how does,
necessarily as
sorry,
bad.
go ahead.
No,
I was
you're
going to
okay.
ask you, you think it's not going to be as bad, but there's some new rules that are coming in place where people who are good with paying their bills
Yeah,
are essentially being penalized, and people who don't pay the bills are being subsidized. So my own opinion on that is that that's going to invite in some similar issues as the previous mortgage meltdown.
I
So
agree.
what
I agree. I
what are your
think that
thoughts
is.
on that?
Yeah, I think that's sad, honestly, to say the least. It's a sad thing that the government thinks they need to. And you look back at the 2008, there was the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, and that was very similar to what is kind of happening here. Is low to moderate income borrowers, people that really shouldn't have qualified for loans, they didn't have enough money to repay, were given loans because the government incentivized lenders to lend to those borrowers. It's
Good
similar to
point.
what's happening here. Now you have the higher credit profile borrowers who have shown a history of making their payments on time, who've shown that they're credit worthy, are getting tagged with I think it was like a 1.75 fee hit, so a 1.75 points that additionally they would have to pay.
Hmm.
And lower income, not lower income, but lower credit profile borrowers are getting the exact opposite. They're getting a discount of 1.75. So that to me just doesn't logically make sense. The reason why I say I don't think it's going to be as bad is because since 2010-ish or so, we've had the essentially the Frank Dodd Act, right? Where you have to document your ability to repay. The loans made since then up until now have been much more sound underwriting wise. They have had to show that they make the money. We are starting to see some loans, well, maybe not now, but it's a year or two ago, you're starting to see some of the not necessarily stated loans, but bank statement loans and the ones that are a little more risky come back to the forefront. But I still think overall the quality of loans done since the crash up until within the last year or so are going to be performing better. They're borrowers have more skin in the game. There's not 100% financing. There's still some low down programs, but it's not 100% financing with a 600 credit score with on stated income. That right there,
I
you're
think
just
I Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a definite improvement in underwriting requirements and loan qualification requirements. However, what I'm concerned about is the overall health of the economy. We're
yeah,
seeing a lot of change. This new GPT hasn't really even set in yet and probably won't for a little longer. But, and you know how things are with the economy, they take a while to matriculate and
sure.
affect everybody. My big concern is there's going to be a lot of transition, especially my age, 45 to 60. Um, and and even with the younger generation too, because they have never been through a bad uh, 2008, 2009 type scenario. So I guess the question is, what kind of mindset are we going to have to develop over the next year or two to get through this?
That's a good question. So the way I view this kind of stuff is it's very I pull from stoicism here, right? I focus on what I can control. So I will do everything I can to be the best version of me, control what I can control, and let stuff beyond my control. It is what it is, right? I have no influence on it. I cannot stop it from happening. I cannot cause it to happen. All I can control is how I react to those things happening and how I position myself so that I can either avoid those if possible or be ready to confront them head on and attack them. It's really all that we can do, with the forces that are in control, the government and whoever else, the big lending institutions, the big investment banks. We can't control what they're going to do. You can see kind of what they're planning. You got BlackRock trying to be, the world's landlord essentially and own a lot of the single family housing. You have the government doing what you just mentioned, Sean, with the credit borrowers or the credit profiles, the high credit profiles being taxed for the benefit of the lower credit profile. So with all that stuff going on and we have no control over it, I will focus on what I can do to put my family in the best position. And that's what I'm going to coach my people on as well is, hey, there's stuff's going to happen. We have no control over that. But what you can do is prepare yourself mentally, take the hard path now so that when the life throws the curveballs at you, when it throws the hurdles at you, you are already mentally prepared to attack that and overcome it.
So, what are some of the ways, some of the things that you uh, talk to people that you're working with about how to actually accomplish some of that, taking control, um, what you can control? How do you help a person prepare to be able to do that sort of thing when they haven't been in the past, and they may be one of those people who are benefiting from the subsidization of those type of mortgages. So how do you get them out of that and into?
That's so really, I think it starts with building discipline, right? Everything starts with being disciplined, and that's going to affect all of your areas. And the most basic form of discipline is with what we eat, right? Controlling what we put into our bodies is the most basic form of discipline. So I would approach that by saying, let's work on ourselves first, right? Let's work on what we're eating, how we're eating, what kind of food we're eating, our health. Are we doing any kind of physical training as well? And by following a regimented nutrition plan, call it a diet, call it nutrition plan, whatever you want to term it. But if you're following a blueprint for both your nutrition and your physical training, when you adhere to those blueprints, you're building that discipline. And that discipline that you build by following either a macro plan or whatever your nutrition plan is, and then following a regimented physical training plan, whatever that might be, if it's lifting weights, if it's doing cardio, if it's whatever it is, as long as you adhere to the plan, you're building the most basic form of discipline. Then that form of discipline is going to spill out into all the other areas of your life because the fact or the effort and the discipline that you have to maintain a diet and maintain a physical program for an extended period of time is it's hard to do, right? So if you don't have discipline, you're going to quit, you're going to fail, you're not going to adhere to that blueprint. So it starts
Well,
with as simple as what we put in our mouth, right? So I start
so
at the bottom
Patrick,
and build our way up.
so Patrick, let's take a scenario. I'd like to role play for a second.
Sure.
I come to you and and I actually should. Maybe after this we can talk.
Sure.
But I have zero willpower, and let's say I'm well. This is actually pretty close. I don't do a lot of physical activity except roll up to work and roll home. Maybe walk from the parking lot to my desk and back to the parking lot, and then to my house and back. Maybe a couple things on the weekend, but let's say, okay, Patrick, I want to learn discipline. I'm going all out on this baby, whatever this program is you want to throw at me. Uh, Typically, I see myself and a lot of others jump in with good intentions, wanting to accomplish what they want to accomplish, which is lose weight or feel healthy because they're getting healthy because they're doing the job or getting it done. Sometimes like a scare tactic from the doctor works a little bit longer than normal cycles, but most of the time we get into this diet mode or physical fitness mode, and it lasts like we see it every new year, a couple weeks. So, and I think a lot of it's an overwhelm. We don't realize what's all involved. I mean,
Sure.
you're talking about a lot of stuff your body's not used to, or your mindset's not used to, or your body's not used to as far as the food, or maybe you don't have the budget where you thought you did. Okay, so let's start from ground zero. What's your method in getting someone that's very undisciplined or been a little chaotic in their life? How do you get them on the right path? I'd like to hear kind
So
of.
Yes.
we start with the end in mind. Our goal is to
Okay.
create the ideal individual, right? Your ideal individual is going to be different than Sean's, which is different than mine. So we all are going to work together to create our ideal individual. And that what we call that or refer to that as the long view. You always have to keep the long view in mind. Motivation is going to come and go. Motivation is not anything to rely on, right? Because as you said, a couple weeks in, it starts to get hard. There's unforeseen circumstances that pop up that throw you off course. You maybe take a day off and then you end up not going back. Motivation is not what we want. It's the discipline, right? So we start by creating in our mind this guy. Carl wants to be this guy who has these qualities, these attributes. And every day you work 1%. You're looking for 1% improvement towards becoming that guy. So we start with the food, right? You're going to have a meal plan. It's going to be difficult for some people at first to follow, but when it gets difficult, we have to remember why we started. The problem is a lot of people are comfortable. They're complacent and they don't want to put in work, right? Because it's hard. And I understand that. I was soft and squishy too, but it came to a point where I look at my three sons. I have three sons, right? So they are going to mirror and either emulate or complete what I do, right? So if I'm showing them, hey, it's okay to be lazy, it's okay just to sit and watch Netflix and binge, it's okay just to shove all kinds of crap food in your mouth and be unhealthy, chances are they're going to replicate that as they grow. So I look at my kids as, for lack of a better term, for motivation. It's the reminder that, hey, I have people that are depending on me to show them not only how to live, but what to do to live the best life, to become the most elite individual that they can be, because they're going to have families, right? So I have to prime them and prepare them not only for their lives, but for their families' lives. And that to me, like the effect that this will have, it's not just on one life, it's on potentially 4, 5, 10, 15 other lives that are directly related to me. And then
Could
everybody
be a
that we go into.
generational thing.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Right. Because I'll have a wife. They may have one or two or three kids. So there's five there, and I have three kids. There's easily 15 kids or 15 lives. Right. So to me, that is my ultimate motivation, my pushing factor that I always rely back on. If I'm feeling tired or if I've had a shitty day for whatever reason, my purpose is to be the example for my kids. So I always put my purpose over my pleasure. My pleasure could be sitting on the couch and watching a show, watching a game, whatever it might be. That's what I want to do, but what I want is really irrelevant. I have a role and a responsibility that I have to fulfill because I have four lives alone in this house that depend on me. And then, like we
So
mentioned,
that's
you have
what
the
you remind yourself when you're wanting to just take a break or,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly right. And
yeah,
I get up at
okay.
2:50 every morning, 2:50 to 3 o'clock every morning. A lot of times I don't want to get up that early. I would rather sleep till
Wow.
6, 7 o'clock. But the thing is, from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that's my time to work on myself. That's my time for self-development. That's my time to build myself up, because as soon as the kids are up, it's not about me anymore. And that's where I bring the stoicism in. It's purpose over pleasure. My purpose is my family. It's to be that leader, to be that husband and that father. And I won't let stuff get in the way of that, because it's not what I want. It's what they need. And my purpose is to provide, protect, and preside over my family.
So when do you go to sleep? Do you get an 8 hour night? Do you get
Oh no,
6?
no. So I'm going to bed, worst case, about 10:30. Ideally about 9:30. I'm averaging probably about 4.5 hours sleep a night.
Wow.
But
That's a tough schedule.
It it was at
But
first, but
it's,
I've gotten into a groove where it is what it is, right? This is what I have to do to be the best that I can be for them. It's not about me. I keep saying that, but that's really how I view these things. I'll be tired at the end of the day. My 6-year-old will want to go to the park. I'd rather sit back and just kind of veg out for an hour.
mhm.
But as soon as I say no, he's going to be crushed, right? And that's being selfish, in my opinion. But when I say yes, let's go, grab your shoes, his face lights up. It's like Christmas. And it's for 30 to 45 minutes at the park, climbing up the jungle gym, up and down the slide. The joy that he gets out of that makes it completely worth it to me. There's nothing better than seeing that.
With what you said earlier, when you do that for your kids, they learn from you, and generationally, that will affect other people. So they'll want to be what their father was, and that's great. That's really
That's the
great.
goal. That's the goal, is to really, I feel that if I do my job properly, my boys will want to bring their kids around when I'm old and crusty and decrepit. Hopefully, the training and everything I'm doing delays that as long as possible. But as I get older, I want them to be like, yeah, let's go hang out with dad, right? Like, they know that I put the effort into them to not always be their friend, but to be the example of what a dad should be to them, to be the example for what a husband, so they treat their wives properly, to be the example of a leader, right? All these things are what men are supposed to do. And if I do my job right, they will recognize that. Maybe not in the moment now, but as they have kids of their own, as they grow to be men, they will see, oh, that's why he did this. I get it now. And then hopefully they emulate that and push it forward. And then they show others to do the same.
So I really like what you're saying as far as responsibilities of a man to his children and to his wife. What do you say to people that tell you or tell anybody that has that mindset that's very patriarchal? That's something that is out of place nowadays, and men shouldn't have those types of goals anymore because it shows domination of a family or to women or to children.
So I'm a Christian, and I believe in God's teachings that the man is the head of the household. The man is supposed to lead that household. I honestly believe if we had more situations or more families structured this way, the country would be in a much better position. We've become soft as a society. Our men are, a lot of times, they're not men. They may have the Y chromosome, but they do not do what a man does. And if that upsets people, I'm sorry, but that's what I believe. Strong men lead properly, they provide. It's not a dominant thing, it's a leading thing. Follow me and I will show you. I will support you. It's a partnership between me and my wife. I lead, she also leads in certain aspects, but when it comes down to it, I'm the man of the family and she is my partner. We're equal,
Yeah, and
but
I
there
was
are
going to
roles that I
say,
have.
this is a lot different than the Adam Tate philosophy you see on the internet. You're. It sounds like to me it's a very fundamental Christian belief pattern that you have about a man's role. Correct?
Yeah.
Or am I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that's accurate, because I believe that that's what we're supposed to do. That's what I was created to do, was to lead my family. I operate under the three P's for my family: provide, protect, preside. Presiding is leading, right? That's what we're supposed to do. If I don't do my job properly, my kids are not going to do their jobs properly because they're men or they will be men. And if they don't have the example of a strong man, they will end up dependent on the state. They'll end up in jail. They'll end up dead, whatever it might be, because they didn't have the right example of how to live.
And I think our culture is pushing this: be a strong woman, be a feminist. But as far as men, don't be toxic. But you don't hear that positive uh, mindset that you're talking about with Ben. And I think we need more leaders like yourself that can lead these young men. More
You
of a
know,
focus in our,
I think you're
yeah.
exactly right. Masculinity has been attacked, and I'll put on my tinfoil hat here, but this is done on purpose. This is to allow the state, in my opinion, to be dad, to be the leader of the family. It causes people to be reliant on the government instead of themselves. And
Hmm.
I'll be damned if my family is going to be relying on the government. Government has its purpose, has its roles, but it's not inside my house. And I think if we had a lot more families that were independent, that were self-sustaining, quality of life for everybody would be better.
Good
I,
point.
I really liked that you included in good or proper roles of men, also including that it's not a domination thing; it's a
No,
partnership. And
100%.
a real relationship is a partnership. It's not where one is controlling the other at all. And um, I think that some people get confused that if you want to be a good man and you want to take care of your family, that that's not trying to be a controlling uh, person or a controlling figure, but a person who wants to include their partner with the things that they're doing and just want to make sure that the good things that they want to happen are in fact happening. And it has nothing to do with domination.
Not at all. I consider myself a servant leader. I'm here to serve my wife, right? And part of my job as the masculine energy of the relationship is to lead. And she is 100% in control of herself and what she does. I don't force her to do anything, but because I fulfill my roles and responsibilities, she supports me. If I were to abdicate my roles, abdicate my responsibilities, I would put more work on her. Not only does she have to do
Hmm.
her duties, but then she would have to do part of my job as well. And that is what a lot of men do. They let their wife handle it because they know she's going to, because most wives are badasses and they handle their shit. Where a
Hmm.
lot of guys are like, she'll handle it, and they let them do that. And I think that's a huge issue that we have.
Women are strong.
They are
Women
stronger
are
than us.
very, they
They're
are.
mentally,
I
they
mean,
are some of the strongest people that I've ever met. My wife is an
absolutely.
ultimate badass. Like I am lucky to have her as my partner. She gives me the strength to be able to do what I'm supposed to do because I know that she is strong, that she can handle her business and support me. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
So there's
Yeah, and I think
I'm sorry,
I was going
Carl,
to
were
say,
you
Sean.
stepping?
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think there's this. It's kind of like our culture right now. The Republicans, the Democrats. There's this gender division occurring where you have your feminists that believe in these toxic males that believe most males should just step back, and then you have the red pill guys that I see too now. They're developing their own tribe, and I think the problem is we're becoming more fractioned based on these ideologies we throw at each other. When in reality, what you're talking about would be is what we really should be looking at is helping other males see where their role is and how to be effective partners and effective leaders in their homes. And I just don't see a lot of that going on except for in uh, religious situations. But
I think
sounds
you're
like you
exactly
do that
right.
with your coaching practice, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think God has been removed from schools, it's been removed from the public theater, right? And because of that, we don't A lot of us don't have a moral compass. There's no right and wrong. There's apparently no genders anymore, according to some people, which that's a whole nother podcast, I would imagine. It, when there's a problem in a relationship, I always look for my guys and myself, right? With my clients, if they're having an issue with their wife, I don't start asking what she's doing. I ask them what they're not doing. What are you not doing? What role are you not fulfilling? What responsibility are you abdicating to your wife? Because if
That
we
goes
start
back
with
to your
ourselves,
theory of having to deal with the things that you can control and you only can control.
exactly right. 100%. Because if you're not controlling yourself, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not becoming the best version of you and then giving that person to your wife and your family. How can you blame anybody else for anything? That's
That's a
that's
good point.
crazy to me. It's crazy. You're not doing your job. So why would she do her job? And the chances are she's going to do her job and yours anyway, but she's going to build up resentment towards you because you're causing more work. You're being a weak individual, you're being a weak leader, and you're forcing her to have to handle your business when she's looking for a partner, not another
Yeah.
child. You have these man-child guys that are trying to lead families, and they get upset when their wife won't hug them or won't, get physical with them. And it's like, well, look at you. You're her third kid or her fourth kid, and why would
Probably
you want?
resents you. Yeah,
100%. She does.
yeah,
She does, and she has every right to. So it's a
Well, and
absolutely.
that's
balance,
kind of
right? It's a balance between, light and dark, good and bad. There's a balance in everything. And if that balance is not there, issues happen. People get resentful. People end up looking elsewhere, right? She's starting to look elsewhere for somebody that's actually going to fulfill her needs instead of be selfish and focused on them. It all starts with self, right? Control what you can control, and that's you being you and doing what you are supposed to do without any regard for your feelings. Because I don't know the way I say it, and excuse me my language, but fuck your feelings. You got shit to do. Your feelings are irrelevant. You have stuff that you have to get done, and it needs to be done no matter what. Otherwise, you're going to put it on your wife, or you're going to leave your kids out and hang them out to dry. That's not acceptable to me in any circumstance. So that's how I operate, and that's what I preach to my guys: is look, you got stuff to do. You may be tired, you may be sick, you may be hurt. I don't care. Neither do your kids. They need something from you, and you need to give it to them. That's just what you're supposed to do, and that's that purpose over pleasure again.
now. Let me ask you a little bit about your practice too, because I'd like to let our audience know what you do
Sure.
specifically.
And
Tell
also
us
how to
what.
get a hold of you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how what kind of a course you would teach, maybe.
So
Kind of
it's
walk us through
Yeah, so I,
what you
I
do.
offer two different coaching programs, right? One is a group program and one is a one-on-one program. In both programs, we obviously will have a weekly check-in. That's where the difference is really is there's a weekly group check-in or a one-on-one check-in similar to this. What we do is we go over, I will create a nutrition blueprint and a training blueprint and then daily non-negotiable tasks that must be done. By doing these tasks and following these blueprints, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You start to build discipline. And from that, we push and we continuously push. You make your life as hard as possible on purpose. You're inoculating yourself against the stress of life. And by doing that, you build yourself up. I also help them find their purpose. And to me, everybody starts with the purpose of being their best self, right? Creating their ideal individual, like I mentioned earlier. And then once you create that guy, your job is to give that person to the world. You're there to serve. So we go through the process of hitting your macro goals, hitting your training, hitting your non negotiables, and we repeat that daily. The goal is to not miss. I don't miss when I do that. When I miss, it messes me up, right? I have missed three wake ups in the last 6 months. I've gotten up late in the last 6 months 3 times. And it kind of threw my day off, right? A little bit. So now I don't have that 3 hours in the morning. I only have 2 hours. And so that extra hour that I lost is negative for me. It's a debt. I go through my morning process as a way of preparing my mind for the day. And if I miss it, it can throw my whole day off. However, when I do miss it, I don't let it throw my day off, because I get right back into where I should be at that point, because stuff's going to happen. You're going to have your cell phone not go off, your alarm not go off, power might go out, whatever it might be, something's going to happen. That's what life is. It's a bunch of hurdles and obstacles that we have to overcome. So you have to focus on trying not to miss as much as possible. And so that's really what we do is we have these calls. I'll ask, hey, who's got questions? What questions? What are you struggling with? How can I help you? Where are you missing? What aren't you doing that's on the blueprint? And a lot of times that's where I'm going to start is, okay, you're having this problem. What aren't you doing? There's something that you're missing. And a lot of times, oh, I'm not eating right, or I'm not training right, or it boils down to, like I said earlier, the most simplest forms of discipline is what we put in our mouth, and then how we train, how we act, what we do. And so if we're struggling on one area, I can probably trace it back to you either had a cheat meal when you weren't supposed to, or you're just not even trying on the food. Because food, in my opinion, and chemically, it's a drug, right? It changes our hormonal state internally. And so if we're eating shit food and low quality processed food, one, it messes with your internal state and makes you feel bad. Physically, you'll get bloated, you'll be lethargic. Mentally, it clouds your brain. You have a brain fog. You're not firing as quickly as you're supposed to. So the whole point of tracking those macros is, one, to build discipline, and two, to make you feel good, right? Because when we feel good, we operate at a higher level. And when we operate at a higher level, we move our consciousness up and we become a better individual. So the goal is to consistently ascend that ladder of consciousness vibrations to try and be at the highest level possible, which for us is going to be operating that love frequency. And when we're operating that love frequency, we're there as a servant. We're the best version of ourselves. We focus on ourselves so that we can give that person to the world. And really, it's that in a nutshell, right? That's what we do, is we try and create that elite individual, that ideal individual, and give him to the world, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Almost sounds like I'd be joining the military.
There's I
So,
don't have a coddling approach, right? I'm not the one that's going to be like, hey, it's okay, you know what, you tried. Because in my opinion, that approach has gotten us to where we're at. We have too many
mhm.
individuals that are soft, that are or weak. My mentor would call him a broad of a man, right? You're just a puss. You have no backbone. You're not really doing what you know you're supposed to do. And and we all know what we're supposed to do, right? We all have a conscience. And in my opinion, our conscience is the authentic voice of our creator telling us where we should be going, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And most of us choose to ignore that voice, and we feel it, right? We feel inside that something's not right. And chances are it's because you're not listening to your conscience. And so it all of that wrapped up is really what my programs are. And that's what we try and do, because when an individual aligns with their thoughts and words and actions with their purpose or what their conscience is telling them, they feel right. And like I said, when you feel right and you feel good, you start to ascend that consciousness vibration ladder. You're feeling good, you're acting better, you're going up higher towards that love vibration. And once you hit that, everything that you're doing is has the correct motivations, has the correct intentions, and 9 times out of 10 it's going to bring others with you. You're going to lift your family up with you, the people that you interact with. And so it's kind of like a collective thing that you're, again, leading the way, because you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're pushing forward to get better.
Great points. Well, how can they get hold of you, Patrick? Give us your Instagram page, and then maybe a website address, and then we'll put this on our website too.
Sure.
And we'll have it, in digital form so they can link to it. But why don't you verbally give us that information of how they could contact you?
Sure, I'm on Instagram at the level up dad, the level up dad. And I do not have a website, but I do post everything to Instagram. I post my daily routine so that I'm really there trying to show people what's possible, right? That's why I document it. I show my morning routine. I show what I do throughout the day. I show the interactions with my kids. I show what my wife and I do. I really try and bring people along so that they can see that it's possible. They can do the same things that I'm doing. I'm nothing special. I'm just a regular guy, but I found my purpose, and now I will not be deterred from fulfilling that purpose. It,
Oh,
in terms of contact, though, I'll give you my cell phone number because I put it out there on Instagram as well. You can call or text. The number is 619 913 8860. 619-913-8860.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we've loved having you on. In fact, you might be hearing from me. There's some I'm in the dating right now, part of my life again. So I'm trying to find Mrs. Right, but I need to be Mr. Right.
Exactly
So
right.
maybe you,
When a man is
you
right,
can,
his world is right. So if there's something that's not right, we need to look at ourselves. And it
I
all
like
starts with
that.
self-development.
Yeah, good.
exactly.
That's a great phrase, actually. Yeah.
That's not mine. That's my mentor's. I can't take credit for that one, but he hits it on the head with that. And so I operate underneath that. Like if you're not right, something in your world isn't right. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Well, hey, we appreciate your time tonight, and wish you the best in your business, and hope changing the culture. I really love that.
That's the goal, right? I'm here to help as many people as I can, and it's not just men. These principles apply to women as well. It's just different roles and different responsibilities. The same idea applies. You want to create the most elite woman and give that woman to your family. So that's my goal, is to help thousands of people. I love what I'm doing now and seeing the effect, the positive effect it's having on not only my clients, but my clients' kids and their spouses, and just the relationships that are being positively affected because my clients are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's awesome. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate your guys' time.
We appreciate you. Thank you, and maybe down the road we'll have you on again.
Thanks,
Sounds
You
good.
have a
Patrick.
great night, though.